The next character is the character flaw. The radical is sandian shui, 3 drops of water. So shui is written like this. As a radical, it splashes into 3 drops. The phonetic, which doesn't sound very phonetic in this case, is sh, which means tongue, and it looks somewhat like a tongue. Anciently, something like this, a tongue sticking out of the mouth, sh. In this case, it's just phonetic. First dien, dien, and then this T coming up. Pie, not a hung, hung, shu, 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 hung, zhe, hung, huo. The next character, qi. 2 components. The one on the left anciently meant a basket. I would try to depict that, but it looks somewhat like that even in the original. A basket, the woven strands, is just phonetic in this case. The right-hand side is the signific. It's a depiction of yue, the moon, so it indicates time periods. So the stroke order, hung, shu, hung, hung, shu, hung, dien, dien, pie, hung, zhe, go, hung, hung, qi. The next character hardly needs any description. It's anciently a depiction of a doorway. So this is the traditional character with the swinging doors. If you've been seeing the other lessons, you know that the 2 leaves of the doors are attached by posts into the threshold and the lintel. So they swing like that. And that's the depiction of them. So mun is gate or door. Mun. The next character, mei. Mei meaning every. In this case, the radical component is on top. It's a change of the character ren. In this case, it's squeezed to the top and looks like that. That's not too big of a stretch. The bottom part is mu. Written like that. This anciently was almost exactly the same depiction as the character for woman, mu. It was a depiction of a woman kneeling with her arms crossed, something like this. So in the one form, it became woman, and the other, it became mother. So, to write the character, I'm going to use a new sheet of paper. Pie, hung, and then the next stroke, shu, zhe, hung, zhe, go, dien, dien, hung. There may be disagreement on the stroke order on that. Follow the book. The next character is bed. So we've seen this component a number of times in different characters. In this case, it has a dot on top. It still indicates a shelter or something to do with shelter. The component underneath is mu, in this case meaning wood. Originally, mu is a depiction of a tree. You've got the branches and the roots and the stem. It refers to a bed because in China, beds are flat, hard pieces of furniture, almost like a board or a table. So they would be made of wood, and the cushioning would be done with a quilt. So here we have dien, hung, pie, hung, shu go, pie, dien, chuang. The next character, shui. looks complex, but it is not so involved as it seems. The radical is I, the character mu, which means an I. So if it were horizontal, it would look like this. You can see as it's turned vertically, that's an I, pronounced mu. The right-hand side is written like this, and I'll write it again here in a minute. Originally depicts grain hanging over, and I don't recall at the moment what that looked like. Something like this. So it's things bending over. It didn't look like that, but you get the idea. Things bending over. The eye is inclining shut-wise. It's actually phonetic here, but you can think of it that way. Shui is for your eyes to close down. So to write the character, you do the radical first. Shu, hung, ja, hung, hung, hung. Pie, hung. Dien, dien, hung, hung. Shu, hung. So if you have a series of hung with a shu going through them, you do the shu before the last one so it can go in the right place. Shui. The next character is jue, to feel, to sense. The traditional character looks like this. And you've seen this before in xue, to learn. So it's hands reaching up or reaching down to pass something on. So I think in this case it's just phonetic. And then the bottom part is to see, jian. This is the traditional character. So to sense or to feel, and using sight as one of the senses. So in simplified form, the top part is just simplified into 3 lines. And then you have the cover, and then the simplified form of jian, to see. Jue. So you do the lines on top, slightly diagonal, and then the third line comes the other way. Dien, hung, go, shu, hung, ja, pie, shu, wan, go, jue. The next character, ban, half. You can see again how the character for 8, ba, indicates division. So, in this case, the ba is written inward instead of outward. Hung, hung, shu. So Chinese depictions of dividing of things, of measuring things, is often pretty clear. The next character, cai, the origins of it are unknown. Some people speculate that it is half of a tree. So mu is this way. If you only show half of it, that's that. So that might help you remember it. It's not as much as the full thing. It's lacking something later than expected, not until. So it's hung, shu go, pie. And just as a note to remember, in the character for zai, cai is the phonetic. But this the pie is moved up and the shu is moved down into the side. Zai. The next character means a quarter of an hour. or actually kind of a notch. The left-hand side, phonetic, is just a phonetic. The right-hand side is the radical and the significant. This is called Li Dao Pang, the Dao that is standing up. And the Dao is knife. Dao. So when it's written as a radical to the side, it's written in these two characters, and the top hung is just obliterated. So Dao derives from a very close depiction of, when you think about it, a traditional Chinese meat cleaver. This is not necessarily a meat cleaver. This is what Chinese cooks use every day. You can hear it walking down the street, chopping the vegetables. So Dao, this is high. It is a counting character used to count items of 12. That might sound funny, but it's just a counting character, so it's just phonetic here. Dian, hung, Pie Dian, Pie, Dian, Shu. Shu go. Let me do that again, larger.
1 second.
Dian, hung, Pie Dian, Pie, Dian, Shu. Shu go. Ke. So ke, because it has the knife component, means to carve. And in the case of a quarter hour, it's, to me, I think of it as like a notch. A notch in the clock. Somebody has put a notch in, and you've reached that notch. The next character also has to do with division and also has the Dao in it. So fun is composed of Ba on the top, division again, and Dao on the bottom. A knife, so it actually means to cut things, to divide them. Fun, so let's do that again. Pie, Dian, Hung, Ja, Go, Pie, Fun. The next character, 2, I'll start with the traditional character because it's pretty involved. You've got this border component and then a phonetic on the inside that I think is also a kind of depiction of, there we go. Something like that. In fact, I'm not sure I've got it right. Yeah, it's pretty close, I think. 2, an illustration or a chart. You better check the book, you students on the other side of the camera. And the simplified form replaces that complex middle part with winter in the middle. 2, it's just a substitution. It doesn't really relate to the meaning or the significance. So we've got this component which is a border to surround. And it can be the border of a country, a park, a garden, even a prison, or in this case, a painting or an illustration. So, Shu, Hung, Ja, Go, Pie, Hung, Pie, Na, Dian, Hung, 2. The next character, Guan, is a hall. The left side, the radical, is to eat. Shi, which is a depiction of this character, which is how that character is still written in simplified characters, but as a radical, it is simplified to that. In traditional characters, this is the form of the radical, just slightly compressed. Sure, to eat, and then guan is the phonetic. A hall. The phonetic component on this means official. So you have a roof over this thing below, which is a rescript, an insignia of office. So, for the simplified form is simply this. I'll write it larger. Guan. Pierre, Hung Go, Shu Go, Dian, Hung Go, Hung Ja, Hung, Shu, Hung Ja, Hung, Guan. U means noon, and it is just a component in itself. Pierre, Hung, Shu. So this is another one of those counting characters. This would be the character that counted the noon hour when the sun was straight up. The next character is happiness, or happy. The top part is a depiction of a drum, if you can imagine that. So this is pronounced ju. It is a drum on a stand, and then something on top of it. I don't know what. You put a mouth below it, and you have someone singing with a drum to be happy. So let's write that out. Hung, Shu, Hung, Shu, Hung, Ja, Hung. In this case, that's a depiction of the drum, and then the stand. Dian, Hung. So now we've got the drum. Let's put someone singing with the drum. Shu, Hung, Ja, Hung, Si. If you put two of these together in one character, that's double happiness, marriage. The next character in traditional form looks like this. So that thing is all phonetic for Juan. The thing on the right side, Tian, means to yawn or to open the mouth. In this case, you open your mouth in happiness. This component here on the left is all simplified to yo, the right hand. So, as we write it, Hung, Pierre, Na. Pierre, Hung, Go, Pierre, Dian, Juan. The next character, Qiu. The right-hand side is phonetic. The radical for this looks like this as a character, which is as a radical, which is almost identical or is identical to the character for king. But in this case, it's jade. Jade is usually written like that with a dot on it. As a radical, the dot is left off. So it still means jade. So it has to do with a ball because you can have spherical shaped pieces of jade. I think that's where it comes from. And then the right-hand side is phonetic. And it looks like this. Qiu. Qiu as a character by itself means to seek, to look for, to get help. Just phonetic. So here we go. Hung, Shu, hung. This one you want to have rising a little bit. Hung, shu go, dian, 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 oh, dian, dian. This one actually should be coming in a little bit like this. Let me write this one over again. Qiu, a ball. Hung, hung, shu, hung, hung, shu go, hungish, pie, pie, dian, dian. The next character, xie. This, as far as I know, is entirely phonetic. The traditional character looks like this. Xie, to write. So the here, yeah, okay. So the traditional character is a roof over a magpie. So a magpie was depicted with a beak. So this is a mouth with teeth, and this is an indication of its feathers. So it's phonetic in xie. A roof is where you do your writing, I suppose. The simplified form is just a shortened calligraphy form. So you can see how these dots are simplified to a stroke. Xie. So you have the depiction of the roof. Shu. Hung go. Hung. Then the next stroke is all one thing. Shu, ja, wan, go, hung, xie. Next character is xin. A letter means to entrust something. You've got renzapang and speech, words, expression. This means a tongue anciently. So a letter is what is entrusted someone to deliver. Pie, shu, dian, hung, 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 shu, hung, ja, hung, xin. Zi. This needs very little explanation about how to write it. Hung, ja, wan, go. You want this fairly vertical on an axis like that. Hung. Zi originally means a seed, like a seed of a plant or something. I guess most originally it meant a child, a baby. And by extension, it came to mean all kinds of things. In modern Chinese, it is a common nominalizer. So it will make a noun of another word. It's a common suffix to put onto a word to make a two-syllable word. The next character, yo, we have this phonetic on the left, an ancient character that means the same thing as from, cong, means the same thing, but pronounced yo. It's just phonetic. And the right-hand side looks like the ear. It's the right-hand ear, which means city, pronounced e, and a short form of this character, which was a depiction of a city gate. So yo maybe at one point was the name of a city, and then the sound was borrowed for postal delivery things. Shu, hung, ja, hung, shu, hung, hung, go, wan, go, shu, yo. The next character is jian. The radical is the renzapang, again, renzapang. The phonetic is niu, which is a cow. So at one point it looked something like this, or something more like that, and it eventually turned into this. Niu does not sound like jian, but at some point it must have been a reasonable phonetic similarity. Pie, shu. Pie, hung, shu. You want the shu to go through this hung. Jian. Next character, D. The radical is tu, and tu means earth, from an ancient depiction of a sprout coming up out of the ground, tu. So here it means just the ground, the earth, the place where you're at. As a phonetic, as a radical, this bottom part needs to be written as a T. And then the phonetic is yeah, which must have been phonetic at one point in time. D. Next component also, or next character also has the radical for earth, and then the other component is foot, or to stop. So, zhi is a place where you stop, where you reside. So the radical, tu, and then zhi, shu, hung. The next character, ju, to wish someone well. The radical looks like this. It is sure. Anciently written like this. Actually, as a character on its own, it's written like that. An ancient depiction of an altar. The right-hand side is the signific. It means auspicious, good fortune. It's a depiction of a mouth. And perhaps anciently was a depiction of someone kneeling at an altar. So to give someone a blessing, to wish them well. Dian, hung pie, shu. Dian, shu. Hung zhe, hung pie, shu wan. Go, zhu. Nian. I just have a story for this which has nothing to do with the development of the character, but it might help you to remember it. It looks somewhat like the character for Niu. So the story is that everyone wishes each other a Happy New Year because it's a monster. And at the end of the year, it would eat people. So the next day when everybody came and walked about in the morning, if they survived, they would congratulate each other for having survived the monster called the Nian. See, it's like Niu, except it has just those two strokes different. Maybe that'll help you, I don't know. Here's a pie. We'll make that bigger. Pie, hung, shu, hung, shu. Nian, make sure this does not cross that top hung. The next character, yue, moon, pie, hung, ja, go, hung. Anciently, depiction of the moon. And day, depiction of the sun. Anciently, sun with a sunspot. End of lesson 10.